Hello YouTube, Dave here again. I wanted to do an update video on my Undisputed Championship title replica belt. I'm a huge wrestling fan. I've said that before, and as a huge wrestling fan, I think most wrestling fans love wrestling title belts, and the thought of owning some of those title belts has always been appealing. So recently I've been starting to build a little collection of replica or commemorative titles, and I'm really loving it. But there were some issues with this Undisputed title belt that I just wanted to sort of have a video on, give my take on it, and I don't want to say buyer beware, but just more like buyer be prepared, I guess. So this is my overall favorite title belt design ever. Like, to me, this is the pinnacle of world title belts, and I know people love like the NWA, like the Domed Globe, or like even like the Impact Championship, or New Japan, IWGP, like the AEW belts. They're okay, but this to me is my all-time favorite championship design. So when I had the opportunity finally to pick up my first replica belt, and it was my choice of any belt that I wanted, this was the one. Whoops, hit the camera there. This is the one that I went with, but it wasn't all good. It wasn't all great. I got the belt when I first got it. It came, pretty quick actually, so I was happy with that. And it's like I said, it's a beautiful looking belt, and I just love it to death. However, I ran into an issue the very first time I went to try to wipe my fingerprints off of it with a microfiber cloth, which is what they recommend using. I didn't have any like cleaner or anything on it. I still need to pick up some ammonia-free Windex stuff, but I just went to like wipe the fingerprints off, and one of the fibers, and I actually used a cloth that had like less fiber, like smaller fibers than this, but one of the fibers actually caught the bottom corner here of this area that I thought was painted, and it actually broke a piece right off. So as it turns out, the black paint on this belt, at least on the main plate, but I suspect it may be the other ones as well. But I haven't had any issues with those yet. But I think it's some sort of like molded plastic that they use instead of actual paint. It's likely one of those things that it makes the automation process easier, which means it's cheaper to produce. And when you're mass producing something, saving pennies does add up. So, I get it, but it came with, the fact that the plastic didn't always stay in place. And I live in a province where we have high humidity, and we have some pretty big temperature swings and air pressure changes. Like, it's not unusual for it to go from like +10 to -10 from one day to the next, and that's Celsius, by the way. There's temperature changes, there's air pressure changes, there's high humidity. So there may be some factors where I live, environmental factors, that contributed to the problem. But the issue was like, it was regular, it kept happening. And at first I was just trying to super glue the pieces back down. But if the piece didn't come up as all one piece, and instead of broke, you would have like seams, you would see where like there was damage. And I just hated the way that it looked because of that. So I went online, and I found that you can get a bottle of this Testors glossy enamel black oil-based paint. So you can get this at like stores like Michael's, which is where I got this from. You can get it from basically any store that has like model kits and stuff like that should have the Testors paint there. The first time I went to Michael's, I didn't know where to find the Testors paint, so I was in the wrong section, and I didn't see it. The second time we went back, I found it basically by accident because my daughter was looking through some stuff, and then I saw these model kits along one wall that I'd never even thought to look at before. I didn't even know they had, so when I went there, then they had a whole like rack of paint. This was the last glossy black though, so I did luck out, and it was actually not in the right spot, so I don't know if someone hit it or whatever, but I was glad that I finally got it. So basically this was a $3 little bottle of paint. So for $3, I was able to fix up my $500 championship belt in a way that I was very happy with and satisfied with. So basically, like I said, for the plastic pieces, I've tried to keep as many of them here as I can, or as I could. So these are basically the plastic pieces that have come off. So as you can see, Like they will usually come up all in one piece. Like this piece here was this spot right there. So basically anytime a piece came up, I would just like remove the rest of it. If it came up in just like a chip, I would remove the whole piece, take some cotton swabs and rubbing alcohol, wipe it down. These ones have black paint on it because I would like try to clean up after I was done, or I would try to clean off the paint on the top of the bottle here so that the lid wouldn't stick when I tried to open it. So that's why there's black paint on this here. But anyway, so I would just basically take that, hold the paint over the area that I'm going to paint, take this toothpick, dip it in, get a little bit built up, and then just tap it onto the plate, let the paint wick down onto the section that I'm looking to do, and then just sort of spread it around with the toothpick, and then just repeat basically until I fill the entire section on the belt. So with this one, what I've done so far is the entire bottom of the globe underneath the banner here, including the little scroll work like this, the lines in between the continents and the banner itself. All of that was redone using the toothpick. If the paint got onto the continents or the latitude or longitude lines here, after it dried, I would just sort of like use either the toothpick and run it over, or just even like my fingernail and scratch it off. So I repainted all of these sections with the exception of this little section here in the little corner where like the continent of Africa is, as well as I want to say this little spot here in North America. But everything else here has been repainted. It's not perfect. Like there are some errors. There were some issues. Sometimes the paint, it didn't dry as quickly as I thought it might. And there were times where I would accidentally hit it and it might cause it to sort of like have issues that I had to fix up, or, things like that, or had to redo certain sections. There are some spots because of the curve on this plate that it would sort of pool in certain sections and it would take longer to dry, and it would sort of start to come up over the lines in the plate itself as well. So there were definitely some challenges, but like I said, it's not 100% perfect, but I'm really happy with it, and it's sort of my own personal touch on the belt now. So like I've contributed to this title now, like my favorite title design. So I've redone the entire bottom globe, not the top part. The top part's been fine so far, so I haven't had to touch any of those. The W in World and the W in Wrestling, I've had to repaint those as well. It's probably hard to pick it up, but they end up lifting off as well. On the banner itself, this section here and this section here I repainted, as well as this section down here has been redone. There were a couple of spots in this star, like here and here, that I ended up redoing. And then the entire champion banner had to be redone as well. So like I said, we got the pieces here. The only parts that didn't come up were like the insides of the letters. So inside of the H, the A, the M, the P, and the O, those are still the plastic. The N, however, actually all of it came up. So because there's the N piece there. So you can see, so that all came up, but so like inside of the letters, for example, those are all still the original plastic. Like I said, not perfect, but I'm really happy with it. I think it turned out well. If there's a part that really bothers me so much that I need to redo it, it'd be super easy. Just get some paint thinner, clean up the area and redo it later. That's fine. I don't plan on doing any of that right now. But I will say the one thing that I was actually really sort of happy with when I ended up repainting everything here that I've done so far is like the plastic is actually kind of thick. So the plastic on the word, like the champion banner here, the plastic was almost flush with the lettering. So for example, like inside of the O here is almost indistinguishable from the letter around it. It's like that thick. But with the paint, it's a much thinner layer, so it makes the etching, or makes the letters feel like so much more raised up. The same thing for the latitude and longitude lines, the continents. Like the etching just feels so much deeper when you do the actual paint. So really happy with that. And yeah, I actually really love it. I love the fact that there's sort of part of me, in this belt now. in terms of its appearance. And, you know, I'm not perfect by any stretch. So the fact that the paint's not perfect is fine. You know, it represents me, I think, really well. Yeah, I really enjoyed doing it, but it is something that I want to make people aware of because these aren't cheap things to get. Like this, like I said, Canadian, this was $500, and that was like a 30% off sale too. Like it was over $100 off of the base price. So it's an expensive purchase, and to have something that you spend that much money on, have these problems where pieces of it are lifting off or coming off or breaking off. It was something that was really sort of disheartening at first. But the solution only cost like $3. So for me, I was happy with that, and I enjoyed fixing it. It makes me actually more inclined to get, like, there's the new Intercontinental Championship belt, for example. I really don't like it. I think it's very bland, very uninteresting looking, but with a little bit of paint modification, I think it would look a lot better. And I've seen people do paint mods on it, and so that's something where I would definitely consider getting that now because I could customize it and change it because I'm comfortable with the process now. But it is something, again, if you were looking to get this belt or a lot of the modern replicas, it is something that I think you need to be aware of. The paint isn't paint, it's plastic. And again, depending on where you live, the environment may make it so that that plastic has a hard time sticking to the plate, and you may need to do some repair work because you don't want to have to constantly try to send it in for replacement or repair every time a piece comes up. So it is something to keep in mind. It is something that would probably, if I were to give this a out of 5-star rating, if it was painted with real paint, it would be like, you know, like 10 out of 5, like, because it's just such a beautiful belt. But the fact that, you know, I had to do a lot of repair work on a brand new $500 purchase, if I had to give it a star rating, I would probably give it a like 3.5 to 4 out of 5. I don't want to like knock it too much because the solution is really inexpensive and a lot of fun. But it is something that can definitely, you know, like not everyone's going to be interested in doing that, right? So it is something I just want to make you guys aware of. And I think there are several of the new replicas that are like that, like the UK title, I think has that problem. The Cruiserweight titles, I think, have that problem. And I want to say that the IC, the new IC, might have that problem as well. So again, just something to be aware of. It, you know, it wouldn't stop me from getting this again if I, you know, if I didn't have this and I knew everything. Like I said, the only thing I would do differently is I probably would have looked it up ahead of time and had this paint ready to go so that I would have it in my possession the day that it came in, because having re-glued pieces down and try to get them lifted back up later, it just ended up being a little bit more time consuming and frustrating than it needed to be. But yeah, so, you know, one thing to keep in mind, it's a beautiful belt, beautiful design, love the etching on it, and the etching feels so much better with the actual paint than the thicker plastic. It just makes everything feel so much deeper. It's fantastic, but it is a process. It is something where you're gonna have to put a little time into it probably to get it fixed up, or send it to someone and basically have them strip it and repaint it all, and that's going to be an expensive process as well. Or for $3 and a toothpick and some rubbing alcohol that you probably have at home anyway, you know, you can fix it up yourself. And yeah, so anyway, just wanted to sort of give you that update. I've been saving these pieces until I got this video done. I had actually recorded a video that I was about to upload, but in that video I had mentioned that the banner, you know, I wasn't planning on touching it because there weren't any issues with it. And then the next frickin' day, I went, again, just a piece of it lifted off and broke off right before the C. And then I said, the heck with it, and just got all the rest of it up and then ended up repainting it. So, yeah, I guess don't record stuff too soon, or don't say, I'm not going to touch this because it hasn't been an issue, because it immediately became an issue. But anyway, something to keep in mind. Otherwise, though, it's still a beautiful championship. It's still one of my favorite things that I own, and I love it. And I actually really love the fact that there's part of me in this belt now with the work that I put into it. So anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you own any replica title belts, if you've run into any of those problems, or if you've actually just taken it upon yourself to modify your belts with new paint jobs that you've done yourself. So just let me know in the comments below. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all next time. Take care.